Welcome to TechNOW. I'm your host, John Reid, also CEO of CATAAlliance, and we're pleased to have with us, right from the budget lockout in Ottawa, Russ Roberts, our Senior VP of Advocacy. So Russ, you've come back from the lockout. What are your perspectives? What are you hearing? What are you seeing in terms of the economic landscape?
Thanks, John. Well, my thoughts after sitting for an hour and a half looking at the budget, just contemplating the whole situation, the discussions of the sector over the last year and a half or 2 years. And where I got to with that was that we, as a sector, have some work to do in communication. We need to get our heads around our messaging, I think. When we look at the paper produced on the digital strategy, what is needed for the digital strategy, what the government is saying about that, the gap, the problem that we're facing is the uptake of technology, the adoption of technology. It's not in our institutions of research. It's not at the research edge of the transfer of those technologies. We have a reasonably good system at that, is what we're saying.
Well, did you see anything in the budget that would fall into the category of motivating innovation, future investments? I know there was some reference to the automotive sector, but what did you see in terms of that sort of smart investment in creating the innovation nation?
Well, I think there's actually the imbalance that we've been concerned about, and Tom Jenkins has mentioned, is continuing, and that is that a significant portion of the investment, and it will be a worthwhile investment, but it's not going to have necessarily a fast return, is right at the interface of the academia, the research institutes, and the community, the business community. It's not further out in getting and creating the environments that get the firms to grow their businesses, grow their technologies, adapt their technologies. There is some investment in that, some, but not much compared to what is going into that research orientation. This also is what has happened to the SR&ED tax credit program, as it has moved away from the take-up to the research orientation.
So would it be fair to say, you mentioned the digital paper, and I've read some of the commentary by some of the other business groups which thought the budget was practical, but perhaps lacked a vision of Canada as we go forward. Would you agree with that?
I would, and I think that is where we have to work on that vision. I think the budget was very much a stand-pat budget. It was not innovative in the sense that we would, of course, hope for. I'm not sure that we expected it. But I think what we need to do is work on creating the room for innovation in the next budget, in the next government.
And I think, too, the word, commercialization, so often we develop our intellectual capital, but we fail to fully exploit the commercial value. And is that something that you would like to see going forward as the major theme?
I certainly would myself. I think that this has to be explored thoroughly within the community as to how do we shape an environment that will get our businesses to take up the technologies and to really exploit them here at home for the Canadian economy.
So Russ, just to conclude our discussion, if you had one point of guidance to provide for the next federal budget, what would be the crystal? What would be your key guidance point?
I would focus on getting our heads around what it is for our businesses need to get them oriented into really exploiting their technologies and their skill sets and expanding on them here at home.
Well, thank you, Russ Roberts, from those early comments from the budget lockup. I know that you're going to be doing interviews with a number of reporters. I know also you've created some briefing notes that delve in a little more detail that we can't really go over in a short 5-minute interview. So thank you for joining TechNOW. Your host, John Reid, signing off until next time.
Thank you, John.